For over a century, the global game of football was officiated entirely by the fallibility of the human eye. Referees sprinted across massive pitches, forced to make split-second decisions that could decide the fate of billion-dollar tournaments, often relying on nothing more than instinct and a slightly obscured vantage point. But today, the most important referee on the pitch isn't a human being at all. It doesn't carry a whistle, it doesn't get fatigued, and it certainly doesn't succumb to the pressure of 80,000 screaming fans. Instead, the modern referee is a highly classified cluster of high-speed optical tracking cameras, proprietary machine learning algorithms, and a perfectly balanced microchip suspended precisely in the center of the match ball. Welcome to the era of automated officiating, where software has eaten the stadium, and the line between sports and high-frequency data centers has completely vanished. Understand why FIFA spent hundreds of millions of dollars developing this system. You have to look back at the catastrophic failure of early video assistant referee. When it was first introduced at the highest levels of the sport around 2018, it was hailed as the ultimate solution to refereeing errors, but it quickly became a logistical nightmare. The system relied on human operators sitting in a dark booth, manually scrubbing through broadcast camera feeds and literally drawing digital lines across the pitch to determine if a player was offside. This manual triangulation process took an average of 70 agonizing seconds per decision. Fans in the stadium were left waiting in total silence, staring at a blank screen while the momentum of the match completely evaporated. Worse still, human operators struggled to identify the exact broadcast frame where the ball was actually kicked, leading to the infamous armpit offside controversies where goals were ruled out over margins of error that were smaller than the thickness of the manual digital lines they were drawing. The business of football relies on constant, flowing entertainment. The manual system was actively destroying the product. Solution to this existential crisis was semi-automated offside technology, and the muscle behind it is Hawkeye Innovations, a subsidiary of Sony that had already revolutionized tennis and cricket officiating. Hawkeye's approach to football was terrifyingly ambitious. They installed a ring of 12 dedicated optical tracking cameras around the roof of the stadium. These cameras do not broadcast the game to television viewers. They are strictly data-gathering machines. As the game is played, these cameras use advanced computer vision to lock onto the players. But they don't just track the players as blobs. The machine learning models track exactly 29 distinct skeletal data points on every single player on the pitch. We're talking about the tip of the toe, the knee, the shoulder, and the head, all tracked in three-dimensional space, 50 times per second without the players needing to wear any physical markers or sensors on their bodies. The system is silently constructing a flawless, millimeter-accurate digital twin of the entire match in real time. But tracking the players is only half the battle. To determine an offside, you have to know exactly when the pass was initiated. This is where the genius of the system truly shines, the synchronization of optical and telemetry data. When a midfielder plays a through ball, the sensor inside the ball detects the massive spike in acceleration at 500 Hz. It flags that exact millisecond timestamp. That is 500 data packets every single second, broadcasting the ball's exact acceleration, trajectory, and spatial coordinates. It doesn't care about the score of the game or the emotions of the players. Its entire existence is dedicated to one single objective: detecting the exact millisecond a player's boot makes contact with the leather. System then queries the Hawkeye optical tracking database to pull the exact skeletal positions of every player on the pitch at that precise millisecond. There is no manual scrubbing. There is no human guessing which frame is the right one. The software calculates the relative positions of the 29 skeletal points against the offside line instantly. If an attacker is offside, the system immediately pushes an alert to the VAR booth. To explain the decision to the fans, the digital twin data is instantly rendered into a beautiful, undeniable 3D animation that is broadcast to the stadium screens and televisions worldwide. It is a masterpiece of data engineering, turning a chaotic, highly subjective physical sport into a sterile, mathematical equation. Beyond just making fairer calls, this technological leap has fundamentally altered the business landscape of sports technology. Officiating is no longer just about hiring good referees. It is about awarding massive enterprise software and hardware contracts. Companies like Hawkeye and Kinkson are now integral infrastructural partners to the world's largest sporting events. Recognizing the value of this data pipeline, FIFA even established the Football Technology Center, a joint venture designed to centralize and refine this technology. Because once you have a system that can perfectly track a ball at 500 hertz and map 29 skeletal points on every player, you don't just have an offside machine. You have the holy grail of sports analytics. This same infrastructure is paving the way for fully automated event detection, instantly logging every pass, shot, tackle, and sprint with zero human input. Teams, broadcasters, and sports betting companies are all vying for access to this unprecedented level of granular, real-time telemetry. However, handing the game over to the machines hasn't come without immense philosophical pushback. Critics argue that we have traded the soul of the sport for an illusion of perfect scientific determinism. Football was always a game of human error, flowing naturally with the referee's intuition. Now, goals are ruled out because a striker's toe was 3 millimeters offside, a margin so incredibly small that it falls within the biological blur of a player's stride. Furthermore, the technology itself is essentially a black box. The proprietary algorithms Hawkeye uses to calibrate their cameras and select the exact skeletal frame are tightly guarded trade secrets. We are trusting private corporations and their machine learning models to make the ultimate decisions on the pitch, with zero public transparency into how the underlying math actually works. As the precision gets tighter, the debate only grows louder. Are we using technology to assist the referee, or are we slowly engineering the human element out of the game completely? The speed at which this automation has consumed the sport is staggering. It started hesitantly in 2012, when FIFA finally bowed to pressure and approved simple goal line technology to determine if a ball had crossed the line. 6 years later, in 2018, manual VAR was rolled out globally at the World Cup in Russia. By 2022, the semi-automated system with the connected ball and skeletal tracking made its grand debut in Qatar. And today, the system is becoming so relentlessly efficient that the semi-automated is slowly fading away. Tests are already underway for fully automated systems that bypass the VAR booth entirely, pushing offside alerts directly to a smartwatch on the referee's wrist the second the infraction occurs. However, processing 500 data packets every single second from the ball, alongside the real-time skeletal mapping of 22 players from 12 independent cameras, creates an absolute tsunami of data. In theory, this guarantees perfection. But in reality, this data firehose introduces a new, highly technical problem: latency. The raw data must be beamed from the stadium infrastructure to centralized servers, analyzed by machine learning models, and rendered into a coherent 3D animation, all in real time. This computational bottleneck means that the instant decision is rarely actually instant. Broadcasters and fans are still left waiting, sometimes for minutes, while the servers crunch the geometry. Ironically, we have replaced the human delay of manually drawing lines with the silicon delay of rendering a simulated reality. The game hasn't actually sped up. The waiting period has just been outsourced to a GPU cluster. But offside decisions are only the tip of the iceberg. Once a system is capable of mapping 29 skeletal points 50 times a second, it is silently building a comprehensive biometric profile of every athlete. The technology can detect minor shifts in a player's stride length, the exact angle of their knee rotation, and imperceptible signs of physiological fatigue. This data is incredibly valuable, not just for officiating, but for evaluating human capital. Major football clubs are now purchasing this advanced telemetry data from FIFA and the broadcasters to analyze opposing teams and scout potential transfers. A player's market value could theoretically plummet because a machine learning model flagged a 2% drop in their explosive acceleration over the course of a tournament. The players have unknowingly become walking data nodes, their physical outputs commodified and traded by enterprise software. And what about the referees? As the technology becomes faster and more autonomous, the role of the human official is being systematically hollowed out. Currently, the system still requires a human in the VAR booth to validate the machine's decision. But this is widely viewed as a temporary, psychological bridge to appease the fans. The endgame is full automation. Engineers are already testing connected whistles that blow themselves the exact millisecond an algorithmic infraction is detected. In the near future, the human referee may simply exist as a flesh and blood mascot, a physical presence on the pitch to manage player emotions and hand out cards, while all objective decisions are dictated by an invisible network of sensors. We are witnessing the gigification of officiating, where the ultimate arbiter of the world's most popular sport isn't a person with a whistle, but a proprietary algorithm running quietly in the cloud. We often think of technology as something that happens on screens, in data centers, or in Silicon Valley. But the story of the connected ball proves that Mark Andreessen's famous adage, that software is eating the world, applies just as much to the muddy pitches of global football. Sports used to be governed entirely by the fallibility, the intuition, and the bravery of the human eye. Today, they are governed by server racks, computer vision models, and ultra-wideband sensors. The beautiful game has been digitized. Every week on Second Order, we break down the systems, the businesses, and the money that actually run the world. We'll see you next time.